Thanks for the introductions. Thank you so much to the Mayor of Utrecht for inspiring words. Indeed, Madame Mamouna could not be with us in this session. She sends her regards. She has to attend another meeting with UN leaders, and she's very much committed to this topic and also to the series of learning sessions which she enjoys so much. So I'm really happy that this series hosted by UCLG, Metropolis and UN Habitat is going so well, is so well attended, because it's important to learn from each other, especially from those ones who are at the front lines of this pandemic, which we all realize is the greatest challenge of our times. And we see as the pandemic evolves and as the impact of the lives of so many people becomes very clear, especially people living in informal settlements of our cities. And we are very much saddened that at seeing the loss of life and suffering in many families in all countries of the world. We also see that the scenarios are changing very rapidly, and to help our communities and our cities, we need to continue to be flexible and adaptable. And these qualities are actually qualities of city mayors and managers who know very well on how to adapt and how to innovate in facing a crisis and doing it with limited resources, which is also the case today. So we understand very much how policy needs to be translated into practice, and our citizens expect the leadership by example and expect actions that will result in improved situation on the ground very quickly. So while we learn from each other in creating solutions to these immediate challenges, we also have to think about how we can future-proof our cities. Habitat is ready to double our efforts and work with all of you to increase the capacity in your cities to deal with future situations and future pandemics. We need to look beyond this week, beyond this month, beyond this year. How can we be better prepared, can be more resilient to face other crises that will come our way? So as we do this, we need to look at it from a global scale, because the challenge we are facing now is quite different from the crises that we have faced in the past. As the mayor of Utrecht has said, the enemy is invisible, and it's even more challenging than a world war in some ways, because it's happening all over the world at the same time, almost at the same time, throughout the planet. So, and unlike some of the past pandemics that we have seen over the past 5 or 10 years, it's a truly global pandemic, and it's also global in its impact, that it affects all the economies of the globe and stops the economies and holds the economies in a way that we have never seen, not even during the war. So we need a multilateral approach. The answer is not less globalization, but more global collaboration. And we see that local government associations as a network of talent, of knowledge and action that can help cities recover and share experience, especially cities that are in the grip of the crisis and in the epicenters of the crisis. We are keen to support you, especially the ones that are still about to enter this storm, and to be better prepared for having the right strategy shaped by the experience and the resources of the others that have already been affected. So I think that's why this timely webinar is extremely important. So what can local government associations do? This network, bringing together so many associations, can do a number of very concrete things. They can support to increase the capacity of the healthcare systems. They can alleviate shortages of needed medical supplies, and these are immediate supports. They can ensure that business continuity happens, especially in the provision of basic urban services, where they have often control or influence. They can apply the confinement and quarantine measures while keeping the most vulnerable people protected. They can support communities and evolve inclusive programs that help them deal with immediate, medium-term, and long-term solutions. And finally, they can give advice to economic stakeholders and to the private sector to ensure that jobs are protected and recovery takes into account the most vulnerable groups. So these are all very specific things that local government associations can do right now. Local government associations are also well placed to start planning for a more inclusive and a more resilient post-COVID world by making a strong case for cities and human settlements to secure the much needed resources from global, regional, national, and community level financial recovery programs. I think this is important to start advocating right now to get a role of cities in these financial packages. Local government associations can encourage cities to undertake new models for sustainable, healthy, and equitable cities. They can create forums for co-creation of concrete roadmaps for cities to go from the present unsustainable situations to more equitable, more sustainable post-COVID city models. They can also play a catalytic role and facilitate a conversation by collecting the data and evidence-based and support evidence-based decision-making. And finally, they can support national, regional, and international efforts in the recovery phase, which is hopefully going to start in several weeks from now. They can finally facilitate various recovery programs, including urban finance, capacity building, response to systemic issues, technology, and global and regional integration. So colleagues, elected officials, colleagues from UCLG, we believe that we can find new ways for collaboration to ensure that urbanization is working for everyone through this crisis and beyond. And as the Secretary General of the United Nations said, the world cannot return to the way it was, and cities must lead the way in making sure a more inclusive world is the true legacy of COVID-19. Thank you so much for your attention. Stay healthy and looking forward to a very fruitful session. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ralph. And following the tradition of only a few minutes ago, we are applauding you. Thank you very much for that. Let us see whether indeed this crisis helps us to give the rightful place to local government association in the development discussion. We've been fighting for this for a very long time, and it's difficult. I mean, I think the international community tends to find us when we are in a difficult spot. But then when we go back to normal, it is harder to keep those spaces that we conquer at the table. And that happens at all levels. It also happens at national level and regional level. So let us see whether we manage to do that. And let us also see whether we can build the right capacity to actually answer to all the expectations that we have, because the expectations and the demands are very high, but the capacities of many local government associations around the world are not, and we need to keep working at that. I think it is one thing that we clearly understand is that we need to be very fast in putting together our recommendations for the aftermath. And we have started to work on that already. And we count on this partnership to actually produce some of that thinking. So thank you very much for those inspiring words, Raf. And going back to the capacity issue, little did we know that so many years ago when Brock Hatton, a founder of the CIB working group, little did we know that we were going to be finding ourselves in this situation, right, Brock? At that time already, we had difficulties with capacity building. We were very aware of the things that we would need to strengthen in associations, but very often we found it very difficult to find donors and partnerships that would help us develop capacity building programs in associations, reinforcing their traditional roles. We found many partners that wanted to use the infrastructure of local government associations to reach a goal, but very few of them were investing in enhancing capacity. And enhancing capacity of local government associations is proving to be critical to address some of the gaps that we have in this crisis. And that I may say they are not new gaps, actually. We know the weaknesses that we have in the systems. And there is a magnifying glass now that the COVID crisis has put in all of this. So Brock Halton, who is also the director of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, it's really good to see you again. It's the second time this week that we come across each other in this virtual manner. And today addressing us also in the capacity as co-founder of CIB, actually. There you go, Brock. The floor is yours.
Yeah,